I noticed him before he noticed me, standing near the little cafe on that sunny afternoon. He held a newspaper in his hands, and when he finally looked up, there was something in his expression that made me feel as though we had interrupted a conversation we had been having somewhere else. I told myself not to read too much into it, because men like that were dangerous to a woman who had spent too long learning to protect her heart. Still, when he smiled, I felt that small, unreasonable flutter I had almost forgotten. We walked together, close enough that our hands occasionally brushed, neither of us mentioning it. He asked questions about me. Not the easy questions, but the ones that made me pause before answering, as if he actually cared what lived underneath my carefully practiced replies. I wondered whether he was simply being charming, whether there was another reason for that attentive gaze. And part of me suspected he wanted something I wasn't ready to give. Yet I kept walking beside him, listening to the evening settle around us. A few days later, I invited him into my apartment for dinner, telling myself it was nothing more than dinner. I stood in the kitchen chopping herbs when I felt his arms slip gently around my waist, his warmth against my back, and for one suspended second, I forgot what I was doing. "You smell like cinnamon," he whispered, and I laughed because it was such an ordinary thing to say, yet somehow it felt more intimate than a kiss. After dinner, he actually kissed me, slowly, giving me every opportunity to move away. My heart raced, and a reckless little voice inside me wondered whether this was the moment when the evening would become something neither of us could take back. But when I opened my eyes, he wasn't looking at my lips. He was looking at me. There was such tenderness in his face that I suddenly felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with being touched. We sat on the balcony, drinking wine, while the city glittered below us. I told him things I rarely told anyone, the disappointments I pretended didn't matter, the dreams I had abandoned, the parts of myself I had made smaller, just to be easier to love. He listened without interrupting, and somehow his silence felt more intimate than any embrace. I began to wonder if I had misunderstood him from the beginning. When he reached for my hand, I expected him to pull me closer, but instead he simply held it between both of his palms. "I don't want to rush you," he said, and the words surprised me because they sounded almost like a confession. I looked at him and realized that what he wanted was not a short-lived romance, but permission to know the woman behind my guarded smile. For the first time, I understood that wanting someone could mean wanting their trust, their laughter, their fears, their whole complicated heart. Morning arrived too quickly, pale sunlight slipping through the curtains as if it had come looking for us. We drank coffee in the kitchen, talking about absolutely nothing, and I found myself wishing that ordinary moment could last forever. When he gave me a gentle kiss before leaving, I felt something inside me quietly rearrange itself. She gave him love, I thought, and he wanted more of the truth she had been afraid to show anyone. He left that afternoon, and our brief encounter became one of those strange little miracles that life sometimes hides inside an ordinary week. We didn't promise forever because neither of us knew what tomorrow would bring. But he asked if he could see me again, and I said yes. Even now, I remember the warmth of his arms around me in that kitchen and the sunlight on the pavement where we first met.